Welcome, Age of Vintage Society. Linda Darnell was regarded as one of the great natural beauties of motion pictures. She never lived long enough for her beauty to fade, but a real woman and a real actress did emerge and deserve to be remembered. The lovely Linda Darnell's life was a good one, but she suffered a lot too. Tragically, she died young at the age of 41 when she was caught in a house fire in Chicago. Why was Linda Darnell more valuable as a loose than a virgin woman? Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. Linda Darnell, the girl with the perfect face. A sweeter girl never lived, Linda Darnell. She is best remembered for her numerous roles in the 1940s and 1950s. Being beautiful was Linda Darnell's curse. She was an emotionally intuitive actress, but almost from the beginning of her career she was typecast because of her looks. Add in alcohol problems and a series of tortured relationships, and you have the recipe for a full-tilt Hollywood tragedy. Linda Darnell had been acting on television for quite a few years, and also live theatre, when she got the role of the lusty Mistress Sadie in the low-budget Black Spurs. After the film opened, she was getting praise for her performance. Her agent called her and told her that because of Black Spurs, she now had offers on 3 other pictures. At the time she heard about the possible new movie roles, she was visiting her former secretary in Chicago, and it looked like Linda had a promising future to look forward to, making more films in Hollywood. She made her movie debut in 1939's Hotel for Women, directed by George Ratoff. Her next movie, Daytime Wife, also directed by Ratoff, was the first of several films she made with Tyrone Power. In 1946, Darryl Zanuck selected Darnell to star as the heroine of Forever Amber. It was the break she had worked for over the last 7 years. She had played mean, sultry and even nasty roles to show her worth as an actress. She accepted secondary parts in numerous pictures simply because they had a sharp, vigorous, biting effect that isn't typically characteristic of heroines. Among her more than 50 motion pictures were Stardust, Mark of Zorro, Blood and Sand, It Happened Tomorrow, Hangover Square, Forever Amber, A Letter to 3 Wives, and No Way Out. On the night of the fire that killed her, Darnell and her friend Jean Curtis, her former secretary, had stayed up late watching a telecast of Stardust at Curtis's suburban Chicago home. Darnell was burned over 90% of her body and died a short time later in the hospital. Monetta Eloise Darnell, later known by her professional name Linda Darnell, was born in Dallas, Texas on October 16, 1923, one of 5 children to a post office worker. Linda Darnell had a stage mother straight out of Gypsy, a monstrous woman who dominated her fearful family. Mama Pearl first pushed her daughter onto the pageant and modelling circuit when she was very young, and of course she sent the shy girl to drama and diction classes. She didn't stand out particularly, except that she was so sweet and considerate, recalled one teacher, but her mother was right behind her everywhere she went. Hailing from rural Tennessee, the fiercely ambitious Pearl had sought unsuccessfully to become an actress, only to end up as a domestic servant saddled with 5 children. Determined that one of her children would succeed where she had failed, she focused all her energies on her beautiful second daughter. For all intents and purposes, Monette was groomed from youth to be a star. She was enrolled in music, dance, drama and elocution lessons while still a child, and her mother entered her into an unending series of beauty and talent contests. Pretty, talented and rapidly maturing, she grew up fast, beginning a modelling career at age 11 by lying that she was really 16 years old. She grew up in the Oak Cliff section of Dallas and attended Sunset High School, where she won local talent contests. As a teenager, she modelled for Southwestern-style shows, was selected as a Texanita at the Greater Texas and Pan American Exposition of 1937 during the second year of the Texas Centennial Celebration, and won the regional Gateway to Hollywood contest. She was screen tested by RKO, but she was sent home to Dallas within a short time to grow up a bit. Darnell was initially rejected by film studios and was sent home because she was declared too young. She quickly was sent home when the film studio found out her true age and was told not to return until she was at least 15. After 2 more years and several more local theatre appearances in Dallas, Linda returned to Hollywood and began her acting career. In 1939, a talent scout from Fox remembered her from the Gateway contest and wired her to come to Hollywood, where she became a contract player. When 20th Century Fox offered her a part, Darnell wanted to accept, but RKO was unwilling to release her. Nevertheless, by age 15 she was signed to a contract at 20th Century Fox and moved to a small apartment in Hollywood all alone on April 5, 1939. After only 3 weeks of acting lessons, her first role in the movie Hotel for Women prompted one critic to remark that she would not be a challenge to Bette Davis for quite some time. Newspapers immediately hailing her as the newest star of Hollywood, Loretta Young was originally assigned to play the role, but demanded a salary which the studio would not give her. Darrell F. Zanuck instead cast Darnell because he felt that the name would advertise her beauty and suggested a Latin quality that matched her colouring. She started making appearances in movies in 1939 when she was just still 15 years old, though by this time the studio 20th Century Fox had changed her name to Linda. Already fully possessed and startlingly beautiful, she almost immediately became a star. She made 4 films, cast opposite swarthy Tyrone Power, and specialised in fresh-faced brides and ingenues. With her delicate, even features and dark hair and eyes, Darnell was perfect for the innocent heroines and faithful wives of her early pictures, such as Daytime Wife. Her brunette hair, dark brown eyes and talent made her one of the top female stars at 20th Century Fox. She is often described as the girl with the perfect face. Only 16 years old at the time, she became one of the youngest of Hollywood leading ladies. Her studio contract had been revised to allow Darnell to earn $200 a week. Her role in The Mark of Zorro, again with Power, was her first Technicolor film, and the close-ups boosted her star status. Darnell posed as a 17-year-old and was listed as 19 years old by the studio. Darnell was so young, so immature and so naive in her ideas, and was very loyal to her boss Darrell F. Zanuck. Her true age came out later in 1939, and she became one of the few actresses under the age of 16 to serve as leading ladies in films. While working on Hotel for Women, Darnell was cast alongside Henry Fonda and Claudette Colbert in Drums Along the Mohawk in June 1939. She made her screen debut in 1939 with the role of Marcia Bromley in drama Hotel for Women. She was all of 16 at the time and became the youngest leading lady in Hollywood history. In 1940, Darnell rose to fame by appearing in her first big-budget film, Brigham Young. She is best known for her role in Forever Amber, based on a best-selling historical novel. She was later replaced because the studio felt her role was not important enough. In an interview during production of Hotel for Women, which lasted until June, Darnell admitted that movie making was not what she expected. "I'm learning what really hard work is. At home in Dallas I used to sprawl on the lawn and dream about the nice, easy time the screen stars must be having in Hollywood. But the last 2 months have taught me quite another story." Linda Darnell had several affairs. She dated Kay Kaiser, Eddie Albert, George Montgomery, Dick Paxton, Giuseppe Amato, and Jackie Cooper, among others. Then in 1943, her surprise marriage to veteran cameraman Pev Marley, who was twice her age, threw her career into crisis. She was placed on suspension and relegated to small roles. During this period she made a brief appearance as the vision of the Virgin Mary that appears to a young girl in 1943's The Song of Bernadette. All the while, Darnell's mother continued to meddle in her career, requesting that Fox transfer her husband from the Dallas postal system to Beverly Hills and arranging for her daughter's contract to place much of her pay in a Darnell family trust. In the studio system, however, actors were treated as commodities, and it didn't take very long For 20th Century Fox to decide that its voluptuous newly married young actress would be better commoditized as a sex object. Henceforth, she would play bad girls. Beyond question, Linda's being cast as a slut rather than a virgin made her a more interesting property both for her studio and the gossip columnists. Few actresses experienced the virgin whore complex in more literal terms than Linda Darnell. She started drinking heavily in 1957 and went to rehab. Unfortunately, as seems to happen to many actors that strike it big when they first come on the scene, her career began to suffer setbacks as the 30s ended and the 40s began. She was cast in several films that didn't do very well and was passed over for roles that she could have accomplished quite easily. At this time she started looking around for other options with her career, and for those studios that would not treat her like a child or like some starry-eyed little girl. Eventually her looks became the only reason she was really getting any attention, and after figuring this out she began to grow slightly disenchanted with the business. However, the more that she was being lauded for her looks, the more opportunities seemed to come her way. After being given the image of a pin-up girl, she began to experience an upswing in her career that she rode out quite well, as she went on to play in the film Hangover Square. The film was such a success that it brought Darnell back to prominence in a way that made it obvious that not even lower-grade film roles could possibly slow her down. There were still a few bumps here and there throughout this part of her career, but Linda managed to withstand them and continue to rise. However, on the night of April 9th, 1965, Linda awoke to intense heat and found flames in the living room. Linda's friends narrowly escaped from an upstairs window, but Linda didn't make it out. She had been staying at the home of her former secretary and her daughter while preparing for a stage role. Darnell was watching Stardust on television on the night of the fire. Not long after drifting off to sleep, she was jolted awake by the smell of smoke and the sounds of panic. The house was on fire. While Curtis, her husband, and her daughter leapt to safety from a second-floor window, Darnell, too terrified to jump, tried to escape through a downstairs door, but a neighbour had run over and smashed a back window with a shovel, and the inrushing air fed the fire and spread the flames throughout the first floor. She was trapped on the second floor of the home by heat and smoke, and found next to the burning sofa. An investigation ruled her death as accidental, caused by careless smoking. Darnell, who had a lifelong fear of fire, was found crouched behind the sofa, burned over almost 90% of her body. She died at the hospital 2 days later, regaining consciousness only once briefly, when Lola arrived at her bedside. She was 41 years old. Contrary to persistent rumours, she had not fallen asleep while smoking, nor had she been drinking. She had nothing to do with starting the awful blaze that claimed her life. Some more sensational reports claimed that on the night of the fire, Darnell had been intoxicated and despondent about the waning of her career. But there was no evidence that any of these stories were true, or that the actress was in any way responsible for the blaze. In her last interview, just a few weeks before she was killed, Darnell reflected on her chaotic, disappointing career and her efforts to give Lola the kind of home and security she never had. "Life has been rough on me," she confided. "I hope it doesn't end in tragedy." Linda Darnell was without a doubt one of the most influential and at times controversial individuals in Hollywood, and yet for all that her career was something that people can't help but look at and admire to this day. She didn't last nearly as long as some within the spotlight, but she did make a rather big impact, and the Hollywood star that she earned is proof of that. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Now it is your turn. What do you think about the life and legacy of Linda Darnell? It's a brutal story, but what remains of her is a cinematic legacy of images. Linda Darnell was one of the 4 most beautiful women in Hollywood. She reached international stature in the title role of the silver screen. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page.